Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. I'd like to ask everyone to stand up and pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act has been given by the clerk in the following manner: posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Clerk's office and emailed to the Retrospect and the Courier Post. At this point in time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Rowan, our solicitor, to swear in our new members.
Okay. John, Al, Dennis, Scott, Dan, Keith, new Alderman member, welcome. And Mary, if you'd all stand. And just after I say aye, repeat your name and then repeat after me. Please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
That I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Jersey,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I will perform all the duties
and I will perform all the duties
as a member of the Planning and Zoning Board,
as a member of the Planning and Zoning Board,
Borough of Runnymede,
Borough of
to
Runnymede,
the best of my ability, so help me God.
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
All right, thank you. All right, welcome, Kenneth, and thank you, the meeting members, for coming back and joining us again. I appreciate that. We have roll call. Joyce?
Sure, mic's on. Chairwoman Candy
Yes.
Hammer.
Yes,
Mr. White.
Here.
Ms. Gushin.
she's here. She
Yeah,
lost
she
her
can't
voice,
speak. She's
so.
gone. Mr. Pachowski. Mr. Vanella.
Here.
Mr. Aubrey.
Here.
Mr. Laverty.
Here.
Mayor Kapadas.
Here.
Mr. Ranieri.
Here.
Ms. Dodds.
Here.
Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Rowan.
Here.
And Mr. Rock.
Here.
Mr.
Oh,
Rowan?
I'm sorry. I was, it was the last year's and didn't have him on here. And Mr. Knight.
Here. Madam Chairman, did you want to turn it over to?
Want to turn the meeting over to,
Joe to do the nominations for
Yes.
this year's chairperson?
I would like to nominate Katie Kleeheimer to be our chairperson.
Second. Any other nominations? So I hear a motion to close nominations for chairperson.
I'll make a motion to close nominations.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your confidence. And you guys do a great job, and you're always good as people that you're surrounded by. So I want to thank you all for always making sure we have a caucus. We've never ever not had a caucus in the, I don't know, 15 plus years I've been doing this, probably more than that. And that's something to be said. I know it's difficult in today's world when you have kids playing different sports and different family functions, and work isn't 8 to 5 anymore. I know it's a commitment to make sure you're here, to be sure that all of our applicants do have a full quorum for a caucus, because it's only fair that they do have a full quorum rather than requiring 5 votes out of 5. So I appreciate your diligence and your commitment to this board. I look forward to another year. And I'm very excited about our redevelopment, and I'm very excited about Tapestry, and I hope this will be a banner year for our town. So with that, I would like
Madam
to,
Chairman, one procedurally,
yes, sir.
We did have a motion to close nominations, but I'd like to take a roll call vote for Candy for the chairperson.
Mrs. Kleeheimer.
abstain.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Ms. Gushin.
That was an affirmative?
Put a middle finger up.
Mr. Vanella.
Yes.
Mrs. Offerly. Mr. Offerly.
Yes.
Mr. Laverty.
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri.
Absolutely.
Mr. Kapadas.
Yes.
Ms. Dodds.
Yes.
And Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. At this point in time, I would like to nominate Mr. Joseph Hockley for Vice Chairperson for the year 2019.
Second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for Vice Chairperson? Okay, motion to close nominations for Vice Chairperson. Roll call, please.
Going ready to vote. Chairwoman Kleehammer.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Ms. Gleason.
Thumbs up.
Mr. Vanella.
Yes.
Mr. Oakley.
Abstain?
Mr. Liberty.
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kapadas.
Yes.
Ms. Dodds.
Yes.
And Mr. Lee.
Yes.
At this point in time, I'd like to make a nomination for second Vice Chairperson. I'd like to nominate Deborah Gushin, 2019.
Second?
Are there any other nominations for second Vice Chairperson?
I move to close the nomination.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to close nominations. Can we have roll call, please?
Ms. Chairwoman Kleehammer.
Yes,
Mr. White.
Yes.
Ms. Gleason.
she abstains.
What's the sign for that? Mr. Vanella.
Yes.
Mr. Oakley.
Yes.
Mr. Liberty.
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kapadas.
Yes.
Ms. Dodds.
Yes.
Here, and Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Okay. Next, Resolution 1904, providing for the appointment of a solicitor for 2019. I would like to nominate Mr. David Rowan of Rowan and Carlemere.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for solicitor? Do I have a motion on the floor to close nominations?
Second.
All right. Mr. Liberty and Mr. Ranieri. Can we have roll call, please?
Liberty and Ranieri. Chairwoman Kleehammer.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Ms. Gleason. Mr. Vanella.
Yes.
Mr. Oakley.
Yes.
Mr. Liberty.
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kapadas.
Yes.
Ms. Dodds.
Yes.
And Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Thanks, folks, for the confidence. Last year, we had, I think, a great year. We had Copper Street coming in, which probably the citizens don't know, but $45 million coming in to develop, which has that impact on our town. And I think we're gonna have a great year this year with the redevelopment going in, with Steve's assistance and his expertise. So we're looking for a good 2019.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We thank you for all your hard work
Thank you
and
very much.
we appreciate it. And we're glad you're having a healthy new year.
Yeah, this one's a good one.
That's right. Okay, Resolution 1905, this resolution provides for the appointment of an engineer. I'd like to nominate Steve Bach of Bach and Associates.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for engineer? I entertain a motion to close. Mr. Liberty
Second.
and Mr. White. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Kleehammer.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Ms. Gleason. Mr. Vanella.
Yes.
Mr. Oakley.
Yes.
Mr. Liberty.
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kapadas.
Yes.
Ms. Dodds.
Yes.
And Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I look forward to being in service in 2019 and ready and able to work here.
We appreciate that. And we're looking forward to working with you and your firm. All right, Resolution 1906, resolution providing for the appointment of a secretary. I would like to nominate Mrs. Joyce Pinto.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for secretary?
Make a motion to close. Second.
Motion made and closed. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Kleehammer.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Ms. Gleason. Mr. Vanella.
Yes.
Mr. Oakley.
Yes.
Mr. Liberty.
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kapadas.
Okay.
Ms. Dodds.
Yes.
And Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Resolution 1907, this resolution is establishing the regular meeting dates and our official newspaper. Mrs. Pinto has given us a handout for the scheduled meetings. We do have one thing that we would like to clean up here. The November 13th of 2013, we had the Municipal Alliance,
New Jersey,
I'm sorry, yeah,
New Jersey League of Municipalities.
correct. So we generally move that to the Thursday.
That makes sense, right? Move it.
Yeah, we generally move it to Thursday. Okay,
So that'll be the 14th then.
that's going to be the 14th of November, okay?
Understand, so this way, message reflects.
And as far as the newspapers are concerned, Joyce, we're still doing the retrospect and the Courier Post, okay? All right, do we need to vote on that? Yes, we do. Motion to accept the scheduled meetings with the amendment of the November 13th meeting to be moved to the 14th, and for these meeting dates to be published in the retrospect and the Courier Post, and to use the retrospect and the Courier Post as our official newspapers. Is there a motion on the floor?
Make a motion.
Mr. Vanella,
Second.
Mr. White, may I have roll call, please?
Do you need a roll call for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we should.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
It says right here, Joyce. I went to Catholic school. It says roll call, I do roll call. I get my knuckles broke.
Only if it's in the Palmer method. I'll tell you what I have. Mrs. Cleon,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Yes.
Ms. Gushen, Mr. Vanella,
Yes.
Mr. Ockley,
Yes.
Mr. Laverty,
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor Kapadas.
Yes.
Ms. Dodds.
Yes.
And Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Okay, the next order of business is the approval of the minutes of the December 12th meeting. Are there any questions on the minutes or comments? Okay, is there a motion on the floor to accept the minutes?
Make a motion.
Mr. Vanella and Ms. Gushen, we have roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't need roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Old business, resolution 1821.
Yes, Madam Chairman, this is a resolution for amended site plan with variances and waivers for PSE and G so they can complete some enhancements to their electrical system located on Evesham. What I did, I modified the wording slightly to include, as part of the resolution, Mr. Bach Associates letter dated December 12th. I discussed this with the attorney for PSE and G, so it's clear, so there's no misunderstanding on the applicant's part, what his obligation is, and which is set forth in Bach Associates letter. So the resolution I had sent into Joyce didn't include one line that says, see, the letter is attached and made part of this resolution.
So you have a new one?
Yeah, I have a new one here, Teresa.
Okay, is there a motion to accept resolution 1821 in regards to PSE&J?
Make a motion.
Mr. Vanella. Second by Mr. White. May we have roll call, please?
Now, who votes on this? Is this,
Well,
this is
obviously,
not the
Mr.
alternates,
Oh, no,
correct?
Mr. Lee can't vote on it. Only the people that,
Mr. White was,
Did you sit in
he
last
sat
time?
on it.
Dan was
I think
sitting-
Mary,
Mary did-
I
Mary
think
sat on
Mary
it.
did as
Yeah,
well.
Mary sat on it also.
Okay.
No, I think it was
I
us.
don't know, was it this one that was the use variance, or was it the other one was the use variance?
Well, the next one I think is a use.
That's the
That's
one
what we
that
can't
vote
vote
on.
on.
Okay.
My
All
apologies.
right. Chairwoman Kleehan,
yes.
Ms. Gushen, Mr. Vanella.
Yes.
Mr. White,
Yes.
Mr. Ockley,
Yes.
Mr. Laverty,
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri,
Yes.
Mayor Kapadas.
Yes.
And Ms. Dodds.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 18-22.
This is just a resolution for a minor subdivision and to reset the lot lines between 24 West First Avenue and 39 North Black Horse Pike. Use variance with waivers. There's a residence that is situate on, I think, lot 2.02. And the use variance is just so the applicant's, I think, son is permitted to continue that that use as for residential purposes. It was conditioned on that I believe he has to resubmit or update his plan of minor subdivision in accordance with the engineer's report, which was set on the record, and he has to resubmit his certification of the home. The actual owner, I think that was his dad, certification for permission to proceed with this application.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to adopt the resolution.
Make a motion.
Mr. Ockley, Mr. Pennell, we have roll call, please.
Mrs. Kleehammer.
Yes, and this was a use variance, so Councilman seat for Mr. Ranieri and Mayor cannot vote on this one. Yes, the vote is yes for me.
Ms. Gushen. Mr. Vanella.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
You said in for Stone, that's right. Mr. Alberly.
Yes.
Mr. Laverty.
I wasn't here at the last meeting.
So you want to abstain?
Yes.
Did you vote on that? Yeah.
I think I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
There it is.
Yeah, and then the other two can't, and then Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. New business? Well, we, get there.
Well, we have the public notice going out. Ms. Pinto worked with Mr. Bach's office to formulate this letter that is basically required, and it is formatted in a legal required format. The only thing that I had asked the clerk / the planning board secretary was to put the borough's letterhead across the top. So I hope everybody has a copy of it. And the reason is that I thought it was important that they realize it was coming from the borough, that it was, because I think the only requirement is public notice, but we want to make sure that they know that the borough authority that's sending out this letter. I guess the only other question that I would say before we send this out, do we want to reference the planning board in any sense or anything like that, to that fact?
Well, it
Or
does.
it's in the letter.
It's the land use board, it
I
calls
mean,
it.
it is in the letter, but is there any other additional thing? No? I mean, of course, it reads, in my opinion, it doesn't read as pleasant as it should read.
Can I, we talked about this before.
Please, what are you going to do?
Can we add anything in this to soften it?
I would not.
We're done, right?
That's your
Yeah, and then-
recommendation?
It leaves it open for interpretation.
Yeah.
And what it is, this form of notice meets all the statutory requirements and also has been modified over the years to meet all the case law requirements. That has been, so this form of notice I'm very comfortable with, has exactly what's needed. The one thing I just want to point out in the form of notice that we've absolutely put in there, if anybody gets any questions, this is a non-condemnation,
Right.
non-eminent domain study area.
I was,
So
I
if
was,
anybody questions, first thing you say, this is non-condemnation, this is,
and to that point, Joyce, I was wondering, do we have the ability to like highlight those two things in yellow? So is it, I mean, like the non-condemnation,
you can underline them if you want. Yeah.
I just thought because if someone is paging through this and they're getting a panic attack and they're like, what's going on, what's going
Yeah,
on?
but you can underline them.
Or, and underline and capitalize,
You can actually underline and bold, it really doesn't.
yeah, underline and bold, the non-condemnation, because I don't want anybody having any anxiety about this. This is not supposed to be a bad thing.
I would underline
Supposed to be
bold,
a
will
good thing.
not use its eminent domain powers and non-condemnation redevelopment area.
So they see that, you know what I mean, so that pops.
And I'm sure folks are still going to ask when they
Yeah.
come in.
Sure they will.
Yeah.
But you know what,
They're still gonna-
at least if it pops, at least if they see that. Because sometimes people
Because they see
go,
the word challenge,
Yeah.
right? You know,
yeah, they go blind on paperwork. Sometimes they get something like this and they
We'll
get,
just have to give them a comfort one.
yeah, they get
I'm
anxious.
sure Steve will.
Be prepared, we will have
so-
a pretty full public portion on that hearing. What else is on the agenda?
We're setting up 300 of these now?
That was my question.
Nothing that I'm aware of.
They
We're
have to
still
have
waiting.
two people.
The one that's hanging out there is Toyota. And,
Yeah, they never
They
reached
hired
this
an engineer,
Okay.
and he called me, it was Teal Jeffers, and I sent him all the documents from the original Toyota hearing,
Okay.
because I guess he wanted to see
And which
what.
they know they have to have an attorney.
Toyota, yes.
Yeah, all right.
That is, Albano and Viola is the attorney.
Who?
Albano and Viola.
Oh, okay, all right, because I think their initial
But there was a
application, they
drainage,
weren't.
it was the drainage question.
Okay.
Yeah, they had done a drainage study or a topography study.
Correct, and that's why, but Teal didn't know the prior circumstances.
Right.
So I sent him all of that, so I guess
Well, I think,
there's a possibility that might come up.
well, I think, honestly, at this point in time, we know Teal well enough that I think that, you know, Toyota of its own accord has prolonged this application of their lack of initiative. I think it would be behest everyone if we don't put anything else on the agenda if at all
I
possible.
think so.
I mean, again, if someone wants to come in for something very simple,
Fence or shed.
and we
Yes.
can get them in and out, that's fine, I don't want to inconvenience anyone, but I think Mr. Jeffers and Runnymede Toyota are well aware of our procedural requirements, and they have not met them. So I think for the convenience of the residents, to give them the most time, because we are only going to allow the meeting to run legally until 11 o'clock. We can't hear anybody after 11 o'clock. So we have got to give the residents as much time as they want to come up and ask their questions and things. So I think we can just explain it to Runnymede Toyota and tell them that we're going to have to hear them in March.
And Chairman, have you ever made that announcement? Do you make that announcement in the beginning of the hearing?
What we can.
Yeah.
Put that in the minutes, Joyce, please, that the meeting legally has to adjourn by 11 p.m.
So I put that on the.
Put that in my minutes, so in my,
Agenda.
Well,
put it on my
Write the
agenda.
statement.
But I mean, are we allowed to go past 11 o'clock if the board approves it? I mean,
It's not legally, but you would just make the announcement that.
It does end at
the
11,
board-
but-
The board will not.
Take on new testimony.
Continue and take on any new testimony or take any action after
After.
11 p.m.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we can just put that in, perhaps
Okay,
where,
As part of the statement?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just put that in there so I don't forget, that doesn't,
No people RSVP?
yeah,
I mean, it'd be nice to know how many people are going to show up, you know, ahead of time.
it's okay.
Do we have an expectation from past history, Steve?
Depends on the community.
It depends on the community, it also depends on social media, and it's been my experience over the last couple of years. It all depends on the interest, so.
Okay, Jen, take care.
I'm gonna refer to people that track social media, which is not me.
Hey, you know what, I mean, honestly, it's gonna be fine, this is an exciting thing, I don't think any of us should, have any kind of a disparaging attitude towards it, I'm not worried about, I want people to come, I want them to come in, I want them to ask questions, I want them to have a comfort level of what's gonna transpire. We're trying to move the town forward, we're not trying to hurt anybody, and, you know, the whole whisper down the lane thing, I don't worry about that, because the reality is, we're doing a good thing, we're not here to hurt anybody, we're not gonna take anybody's house. So, I love a full room.
It's not going to take, yes,
No.
like the Magnolia was with
Nah.
their redevelopment. I mean, that was,
That wasn't architectures.
yes, it was.
Are you talking about the FedEx, or are you talking
No.
about?
No, we're talking about we're talking about the houses on Davis.
Hospital Davis, when they tried squeaking that in.
That was the redevelopment.
Oh, that was in
an
redevelopment,
application.
that was just a regular.
No, that was part of the
There's a
redevelopment.
lot of questions.
They had a land use change along.
Well, they changed the use of the property.
Right, it was a
And the argument
zoning,
was
it was a
that it
zoning
wasn't-
change, and that was
Wasn't-
Anastasio,
Yes.
the developer, yeah, I've heard.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it's not gonna be that.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What type of visual aids are we going to have here to either give out to the members of the public for the meeting? Many times, we'll have a whiteboard up here or something that only the first two rows on this side can see. Are we going to have any visual
I'm
aids?
just gonna have some extra copies of the report, in case people
Question their property.
don't look at it,
Is it-
and I'm just gonna have a full-size map. I really have to rely on the report itself, and I really can't introduce anything except my testimony and what's already there. Because that's what's been on file, and that's what's on file with the clerk.
Do you think it would be advantageous if we were to get a full-color map depicting, what properties are going to be involved?
Yes.
Let's get a hard copy.
That's right, yeah, that's right in the report, as 11 by 17 handout, a 2 by 3 board up here, so if anybody
Right.
wants to point to their property,
Right.
they can locate that, yes. Really, that's the only exhibit that we want to do, is just an enlargement of the map that's already included in the report.
Are they getting a copy of the map, Joyce, with this letter?
No,
No,
Okay.
they have to come in and ask for that.
Right.
To see it,
right. And do you have extra copies of the report?
of the book.
Yeah,
I might have about 5 maybe,
okay.
but I'm not giving it to them, they can just view it, correct?
If you wanted to give it, you could.
Well, suppose, I mean, is it possible that 30 people could come in?
Sure. So,
Okay,
I mean, what's everybody's preference here?
In what way?
I mean, if someone comes in and wants a copy of the report,
No problem, give it in.
I rather,
Yeah,
I
you want to
rather,
supply them?
I will supply them, yes.
yeah, no, I want to be,
Well, they can if we don't have enough, we can
You
request.
mean
it.
the day that the letter goes out, have it ready to get, be handed
Yeah.
out? Is that what you mean?
I want to be
They come in
completely
and it's-
transparent because this
If we
is,
run out, Steve will print more.
yeah,
And
this is a good
I
thing.
prefer to give, in today's computerized world,
Electronic.
I prefer to give paper copies out because electronic,
Oh,
even PDF, even mock PDF, and
They can alter it.
PDF,
that's interesting.
can be altered.
Is that right?
So many times.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that way we know the copies that we have provided are,
Are true and
Are
full
true.
copies. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I want it to be a positive thing. I want everybody to walk out of here next month and feel good about what we're trying to do, because they should feel good about what we're trying to do. We're not, we're not
this is
doing
the first
anything.
step. This is the first step, there's gonna be more to it.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at, just Friday night, Mary and I were at the Mile just having a burger, and I literally almost left because there wasn't a parking space in their parking lot. And it was, what was it, 6:30, something like that? It wasn't late. It was like 6:30, we went in to get a burger, and I had to park in front of the post office and walk. I don't know where Mary parked, but I mean, it was like, this is the thing that's gonna help a place like the Mile put a deck on, put some more parking in, because most people are gonna say, oh heck, I'll just keep going, and I'll go to Belmar, I'll go to Dominic's, or I'll just keep going, and I'll go someplace else because there's no place to park. This is going to hopefully help, attract the businesses so that we can offer the depth of the lot, because everybody, I mean, Mulligan's just bought the entire Camden Bar Supply lot
Yeah, it's amazing.
on the White Horse Pike.
Did you see that?
That's a big piece of property. Mulligan's just bought that entire piece of
Steve did,
property.
Steve
Yeah,
bought all that at the gas
it's a
station.
gas station.
Parking is key.
Parking and decks and things of that nature are really becoming key if you want to be competitive. And, I mean, I feel bad because Kid Rips wanted to do something, they're kind of landlocked.
Was there a waiting time even though the parking lot was full? Was it?
No.
So,
No, there was no wait time. There was,
Underserved.
they're underserved, exactly right.
Well, since you brought up Kid Rick, one thing I would like to say again is, remember we talked about our master plan and some of those things. I still like the idea of the shared parking type of mentality.
Absolutely.
The bank closes basically at 5 o'clock and the bar business increases. So
Right.
I think, I don't know how we formalize that.
There's a lot of
But,
places.
help that idea to say if you park in a lot that's not being used. I mean, we see that a lot on Haddon Avenue with the speed line area where there's all that parking, the speed line,
Sure.
is done around a certain time and then
All
the
we can
restaurants.
do is what you have in your master plan right now is encourage it.
Encourage it, yeah.
And then if the preliminary investigation or the determination of need investigation is successful and you go on to a redevelopment plan, you would do the same thing. You would actually encourage that, and to a degree, you might be able to give some slight parking reductions if they're using shared services. So
Hmm.
instead of 5 per
On the site plan,
thousand,
yeah.
you would say 4.5 per thousand or 4 per thousand if you're doing a shared parking arrangement. So that gives a little incentive for them to try to make arrangements.
That's a big thing. I mean, parking is, especially because, we all know that the state took away all the northbound Black Horse Pike parking, so you're not allowed to park on the northbound side of the Black Horse Pike. Look at the northbound side of the Black Horse Pike. It's bad. There's no businesses. I mean, they're all closed. I mean, you have marinas because they deliver, but I mean, as far as the liquor store's gone,
The liquor store moved to a
they
new
did,
property.
with a parking lot.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, that's the caveat. They moved to a store with off-street parking. Because who's gonna go to a liquor store when they've already had 2 beers to go get more beer and park illegally? Well, they actually, if you recall, they actually knocked the house down. The liquor store owners knocked the house down in the back of their property to use it for a parking lot, and they didn't own the house. The house wasn't paid off. That's how,
The
that's
bank got
the,
mad,
yeah, the bank was not happy.
Yeah.
They didn't understand the sidewalk. Remember that?
But that's a true story, that actually happened, they knocked the house down because they needed parking so bad. So parking is really huge, especially on the northbound side of the Black Horse Pike, so
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to, I'm hoping that, you know, there's some people that would like to get more money for the house than maybe it's worth. You know, if a developer comes in and offers them, you know, say, hey, we're gonna do this, and your house is worth 175, we're gonna give you 2 1/4 for it, because we have a corporation that really wants to come in here and make things happen, and, you know, people wanna downsize, they have a 3-bedroom house, and they're down to mom and pop now.
And that's all private matters between
The developer,
landowners, not
Yeah,
anything to do
that's
with the
correct.
borough. The borough is not in the middle of that
Yep.
equation at all.
yeah, so it's a developer and the actual property owner, so that's good for us as well. All right, was there any other questions on the public
One more
notice?
thing for the good of the order. So I was noticing the thumbs up until 3 years ago, the borough of Woodstown in Salem County, the way they did the votes at the planning board was all in favor. No one said a word. All they did was raise their right hand. And it was an old-time way they did it, way back in the days. They did it by vote. And then the secretary would have to say, that's an affirmative by, that's an affirmative by, that's an affirmative by. Yeah. And then if you get your hands down, that's enough. But up until 3 years ago, I don't know how they got away with it. That was funny.
Well, I did want to say something about the positive was, if everyone noticed, the Dunkin' Donuts site is starting to move forward. And I think I'm going to do a little work to kind of promote that a little bit, the fact that since I think we discussed, what was it, 1972 or 73, we were talking about the last time that Runmead had a drive-through food establishment was almost, you know, it was 45 years ago. So I'm going to promote that a little bit, that we're a little more open-minded, that we're allowed to break the 40-year rule. I want to get an opportunity to say that.
That was my baby.
That we've been doing it for 40 years, and we finally decided to change our 40-year rule. And I think it's starting to look better already, just the fact that there's a sidewalk by a high school that's been there since '56, and the kids have to walk, you know, through the middle of the parking lot to get to the high school there. I think that's a positive.
And the funny thing is, Nick, people still ask about that. I met with Wendy Gardner last week, and we're talking about my mom's loss, obviously, but lost my mom. But we're sitting there, we're talking about different things in the town, and she's like, well, yeah, they don't allow, there's no restaurants and drive-ins in town. I said, no, I mean, people, someone like
Wendy didn't even know.
Wendy Gardner, who's
Yeah.
one of the most prominent business owners in town, does not know that we changed the rule and that we're allowing that. So it is a good idea to promote that kind of stuff, because it's, I think, an attraction for people to come in, you know, and be competitive.
I think what John was just saying is, once we get past this redevelopment, the study part, is the idea to create this redevelopment, you know, authority, committee that's going to actually promote all this stuff. The borough's going to need to put some money into this project to, you know, start to promote that we are changing our attitude in this.
And there are entities that go to all the different trade shows and everything else. I can give you some references of what other towns have used.
No, I've seen it. I know what you're
You
talking
know,
about.
the same.
And I know part of the best practices forum that I felt this year talked about who was in charge of business development, and I put my name down, even though I'm the only one on my committee at this point right now. So hopefully we'll get a few more people involved and get it done. But no, I know what you're saying, Steve. We'll get it done. Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions or comments from any members of the board on the,
I guess I have a question.
Yes, Dan.
I'm new to this procedure, so I don't really know if this is the proper time to ask or, you know, how. But I agree with your letter, the legal part of it, needing to go out the way that it is, but I have done a little bit of research about how some other towns do things like this, and wouldn't it be appropriate to put in a, you know, we welcome you to come to a town meeting kind of a letter along with this, to hear your ideas to help us all grow and reach a new brighter future together.
Was that separate from this plan, would you say, or is it part of the
I would think
study?
that would be part of the redevelopment plan.
Not the study?
Yeah, the study part is very dry, and it's very matter of fact, And all we're talking about is the land itself and whether it meets the statutory criteria.
Got it.
This is before we actually say what kind of uses, what type of zoning, what type of setbacks, what type of buffers would be appropriate. That's the plan part.
After this.
That's after this. This is really these properties were identified for a study. Do they meet the statutory requirements, yes or no? And if yes, why? And then the board would have to find favorably, agree with recommendations of the planner, and take a vote on it.
And the next step,
The next step, which is, and this is the part that has always been challenged as part of the process.
getting ahead of yourself?
Yeah, but this,
This part, the actual.
the termination of need portion is the one that's always challenged, for whatever purpose, whether you actually meet the statutory requirements. Way back in the day, planners were not walking all the properties, taking the photos. They were, one of the challenges was the dashboard drive-by, determination of need and value. There's a lot of different challenges over the years. Everything that we have done in the mind of those individual cases. I don't want to introduce anything new, because then it's something for them to challenge. But the next part of the process, there's nothing wrong with putting on the website, by the way, besides
The
this
notice.
notice. Put this notice on here and say, hey, by the way, next planning board meeting,
Okay.
come out, like that stuff for this public hearing. But I don't want to muddy
Yeah,
this
that's
part. But when
fine.
we do the actual work sessions for the actual redevelopment plan, we could do all kinds of notices, get more public involvement.
Yeah.
That's really ideas.
And
Yes,
that's-
I think that's the part that would help to be a
To
little bit more
formulate it.
Sure.
transparent and also have it be better received by people, to know that this is part of a larger process where we are going to be asking for their input.
Absolutely.
Rather than saying like,
You're not gonna
this is
dictate,
happening.
you're not dictating.
We're gonna have work sessions before the board of these are the different ideas,
Yeah.
and everybody's gonna kick them around.
Now, that being said, Steve, when we do this meeting on the 13th, are we going to need to stifle their questions and stifle, like, I don't want to start this thing off where, hey, we're not doing that this meeting.
We have to listen to all comments, all questions.
So I know what we're doing, I know we're doing the need thing on the 13th,
Yes.
but I don't want to stifle people when they come in and say, hey, we're not talking about that tonight. We're just talking about the assessment.
To a degree, I will be answering the questions with your permission. We're gonna hear some of those comments, but if we start going into details,
Right.
say that's not before us.
Right, I think we have to try to set the parameters going in a little bit. I'll ask you to do that.
This is step one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Of a more lengthy, complex process.
I would let it go. The one thing I don't want to do is, in terms of process, which is appropriate to talk about still, is I would rather everyone has an exhaustive ability to comment or question. I don't want to limit it to 5 minutes like other municipalities do. If we have to do a second night, we do a second night, because there has been challenges where certain municipalities limited the public comment to 5 minutes, or less, and that was a challenge. So we're going to be here listening to all the different comments, and the only thing we'll try to do is, if they start going too much on a tangent, we'll ask them, please talk about what is under consideration by the board.
For this evening.
And keeping in mind that what we're doing is trying to breathe life back into the Blackbird Pike area. That's what it's all about, your community. That's what we're trying to do.
This is a tool in your toolbox
Yeah.
that the boroughs can utilize.
That night would be
And we're using it
reiterating that.
with the least impact possible, non-condemnation.
Now, we'll be having a vote on that evening?
Yes.
Now, when we vote, how many parcels per vote, or are we
It's all
going?
once. You're
All
gonna
one?
determine that the study area is indeed in need of redevelopment. And I'll have a draft resolution of Dave at a time, and you'll circulate it around. And you refer it to governing body for them to also adopt by resolution.
So both boards have to adopt?
Yes, this is the first step.
Okay.
Governing body referred it to the planning board way back in the day. Planning board is going to make their determination, which is their job to do. It has to be done by the planning board. Planning board will make that determination, and that resolution will go to the mayor and council. and then you most likely authorize the next step, which is the development, if everything's successful, a development of, the preparation of a redevelopment plan, which has all of the bells and whistles and all the standards.
Sounds good.
I guess
I'm excited about it.
my one final question is, have you found it to be successful, like do non-condemnational redevelopment areas, do they actually work, or does it
Yes.
actually
They
escalate
actually work,
sometimes?
in my mind, they work better nowadays. They really do work better nowadays. Number one, the process is a little bit easier because people are not insecure in terms of their ownership of the property, thinking that the governing body is gonna somehow
Control their
condemn and
destiny.
take it. And then I think they're more open when people come to talk to them about a real estate opportunity. Someone's coming to talk to me, there's condemnation, I'm not talking to that person, I would have never talked to that person because I don't want them to know anything. But if it's open, I'll hear what you have to say, I don't have to do anything if I don't want to do it, it's my property.
Right.
So I'm finding it more favorable with the non-condemnation, especially in recent years, especially in our area of Camden County where you had such difficult condemnations, fights, especially in Hatton Township with the Dyke site. I mean, it was,
That's up in Mark, right?
yeah, it has a lot of negative connotation, especially in our area.
Jockey in there the
Now,
other night.
in your experience, would you think, or would you anticipate that there would be multiple developers coming in to do this, or would you anticipate that one developer is going to come in and try to bid it? How do you anticipate that's going
Don't
to?
know,
Okay.
don't know.
And this doesn't stop the borough council to go after a developer if we want to do something, correct? This is just the first step. Say, for example, we don't get someone wanting to do something that we want to get done. The borough still has the ability to possibly go out and advertise and say, we want a developer to do this project.
So that's the second step of the process is the redevelopment plan. Right now, we're talking about just, are these properties meet the criteria
Yes.
for an area need redevelopment? If that's successful, the next step is a redevelopment plan. That will be an overlay plan, meaning that's going to ride on top of your existing zoning in the area. So people that have residential zoning, they still have residential zoning, so they want to put an addition, a deck, a pool, they come into this board, and they still go by their residential zoning, or whatever zoning's along the pike, all that zoning stays in place. The only time the redevelopment zoning becomes active is when someone is named a redeveloper by the redevelopment entity, which is a mirror of mayor and council. So when someone comes in and says, I have this property and I want to take advantage of the redevelopment plan, this is what I want to do, goes to the redevelopment entity, which is mayor and council, and they say, yeah, we like what you're doing, or no, we don't like what you're doing. They like what you're doing, like what there is being proposed, we say, okay, we'll name you as a redeveloper to that parcel. Most likely they're going to demonstrate they have site control, ownership, which is the first thing that they're going to look at, that they actually, they're not going to be named redeveloper on someone else's property. I'm just saying, say the old merry-go-round,
Yes.
which is in here. Say, I know there's some talk about things right now, they can come in right now under the existing zoning and get their land use approvals, right? If they don't move that quickly, and and the redevelopment plan, if a redevelopment plan is established, they come to mayor and council saying, I like some of the aspects of your new zoning. I would like to be the redeveloper of this parcel that I have site control with. Can you name me redeveloper? They enter into a redevelopment agreement with the assistance of solicitors. Then that new zoning is in effect. Then they get the benefit of that new zoning with maybe some flexibility. on
Tax abatements and
all that
Site
stuff.
specific though.
Yeah, but it's site-specific and it's entity-specific. So everybody's zoning doesn't change unless they become a redeveloper. And the only way you become a redeveloper is you voluntarily go in and ask, can I be a redeveloper? I have site control, and this is what I want to do, and mayor and council thinks it's a good idea. It gives a lot more control to that process.
absolutely.
And flexibility. And you're gonna find that when we do the redevelopment plan, we're gonna have certain aspects, but we're not going to, you don't mind me talking a little bit more, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, I want
One of the
to.
biggest things that has happened over the last 10 years in redevelopment is to try not to over-plan a redevelopment plan. Many other towns, like other towns in Burlington County, other towns in Camden County, especially up north, I'm not gonna name the towns, but they came up with such a vision of what they wanted to see. Unfortunately, no developer wanted to do those jobs. So they had wonderful plans, all these pedestrian spaces, all these wonderful streetscapes. The trouble is, that's not what a developer is able to market and sell and actually financially make viable. So we're gonna have aspects that they have to give us a streetscape plan, they have to give us circulation, they have to give us buffering and landscaping, but we're not painting the picture for them. We're just telling them what kind of ink and generally sort of what colors to use. They have to paint the picture and come up with what works for them. Because they're the ones putting they're the ones putting the money together and they're doing the development. So we're not gonna say that you have to use this, red brick type of facade or this painting or anything else like that. Other redevelopment plans, you've really got that detailed, and that's where they always fall apart.
So you see it as more like a guide rails, keep them
Yep.
in between the guide rails?
Exactly. Keep them to what we want to see and what's appropriate, especially the uses. And if they have certain kind of uses, they're gonna have to have certain kind of buffers. And if they have certain kind of uses, they're gonna have to have a certain amount of parking or some other pedestrian thing. Everything along the pike, they're gonna have to have some sort of pedestrian enhancement. They're gonna have to tell us how to do it.
And at that point in time, once they establish ownership of a parcel, and then once they have decided on some type of a preliminary site plan, would they be coming in to see us?
Yes.
So we, at that point in time, we have control of the site.
Oh, absolutely. And so has to go through the same land use process. But the first step in the process on a redevelopment is go to mayor and council, and they have to be designated as a redeveloper. Usually, it's a memorandum of understanding that they're gonna be named as a redeveloper. So you don't have to go through the final contracts unless they get the approval by the boards here. And then they go back to the redevelopment entity at the end. But that gives them standing, the MOU or memorandum of understanding gives them standing to appear before the land use board.
Steve, how does the parking come into play? If I'm an investor and I want to purchase a couple of lots and present an investment idea, but I need parking, are these investors, these developers want to approach some of the lots that we were talking about that are accessible at night? Are they the ones that will make that opportunity
Yes,
happen,
they
and bring
have
it
to
to
do
us and
that.
say,
They
we've
have-
gotten this far, we
They
can work
have to
with
do
this?
that as private.
And bring it to
private
us?
property, exactly.
That's how
So they'll
that's-
have to demonstrate that, but the flexibility will be, current zoning says you must have the parking on site. Maybe the redevelopment plan, maybe, again, it's not written, maybe it says that we will allow a certain percentage, up to 50%, 25% of shared parking considerations.
We require a written covenant of that.
Yep, and then we'll have to have a long-term lease, appropriate lease and everything else, so.
And that's something we can expect to happen.
Yeah. And then that happens up and down Enfield Road and Cherry Hill right now, because I've been part of some of those applications. So, I mean, it's almost like these wonderful land leases that they're using for the buildings. They're 40-year leases.
Well, it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, honest to goodness, Clements Bridge Road and Black Horse Pike, Med Express closes at, 7:45. The attorney's office, which used to be the old CVS, they close at 5. So I mean, if, in a perfect world, if, someone were to buy, the Reed's and the dentist office and all that stuff, they could have an enormous, that whole block could come down. They could have an enormous amount of shared service parking.
But the good thing is when you have some of this flexibility, especially for the additional uses in a redevelopment plan, it takes the expanded burden of a use variance out of an application, which makes it sometimes more attractive for developers.
Bypasses that first hurdle.
Yeah, because the use is a vested use, so they'll actually start going down to a design process if the use is allowed. And also, they can start doing it. A use variance is always an ask to a land use board. And, the enhanced standard of proof, you gotta have 5 out of 7. It is sometimes daunting for a developer. So this gives a little bit more benefit that they know what they can be vested in if they meet the conditions.
I just have one question. If the redeveloper does come in
and starts his project and say basically defaults on the project, and a new developer comes in, does he have to go through the same process again?
Yes. Yes, because we are not, meaning as a municipality, we are not vested in any of those application materials. They are the private ownership of a property owner or a developer or whoever the applicant is. We absolutely cannot grant anyone the rights to that intellectual property. Those plans, those specs, those designs, that's private entity, private entity. All we can do is review and review and take appropriate board action on what is submitted to us. But, and I, even if everybody wanted to write that in there, I would strongly suggest you don't, because that's intellectual property, you don't get involved in that.
That's just
Private,
curious.
private.
The only thing that I bring up sometimes is the idea that the borough might have to be part of the process in a sense. You know, Steve and I have had some conversations. I thought that the borough should, you know, maybe get involved more with, you know, parking and some of this process. He seems to push back on me a lot on this issue. But I still think that what you're talking about is, yes, we have nothing to do with that. But at the same time, I think we still have to leave open the idea that the borough might want to be involved in some aspect. You know, we talk about parking all the time. You know, it was easier for us, I think, to justify the parking lot right adjacent to the Borough Hall building, because it benefited the Borough Hall. Of course, it may benefit, you know, some of the businesses in the general area, but in my opinion, a very limited general area, because I think people like to park as close as possible to wherever they're going in. I don't see too many people walking more than, you know, 25 feet and they get upset. And that's the length of a parking space. So, you know, but I still think that's some of a possibility. I think some of our neighbors, I mean, if we talk to many other, if you go through other towns, you've seen it. You've seen it in Collingswood, you've seen it in Barrington. I mean, you know, I still feel that the borough's been behind. You know, Barrington probably did that public parking, it's got to be 15 years ago. You know, Collingswood still sees that as a problem in doing it. The other thing I'll say is when you said, there was one aspect that, you know, I was at Collingswood's, I was at a planning board meeting for them, and they had one of the restaurants was expanding their use. They had an existing restaurant, and they were taking over the next building right next door, and they have an outdoor deck behind it, so they wanted to expand their outdoor deck. And of course, the room was packed with all the neighbors because there was no parking. But it was a permitted use. It wasn't actually a use variance. It was permitted because they allow restaurants all up and down Manhattan Avenue, regardless if there's any parking for anybody.
That's right.
And so it was very interesting, all the concerns of the residents were, this is going to be awful, you're making, you know, the restaurant's going to go from 100 to 150 people, where are these other 50 people going to be? And the mayor, I give him credit, and you know, he basically said, well, we have two choices. We have plenty of parking if all the businesses are gone, and we're not successful. Our success is causing this. Now, I agree with him to that statement, except for I also agree that the municipality has some obligation to kind of reduce that burden.
You have to reduce the impact.
That impact.
You have to reduce the impact on the residents.
Yeah, so that's why I keep saying if there's something that the borough needs to maybe get involved in, like I said, we're changing rules, we're changing our processes, what can we do? Does the borough need to, you know, have some skin in the game possibly?
And you can
to do
relax your
this?
standards for parking if they're doing an adaptive reuse of an existing storefront. So say the liquor store, or some one of those storefronts wants to put in a restaurant, but there's no possibility of having any parking right there on site. Those are the type of things you can do under your redevelopment plan.
I don't think they would succeed, we all agree,
Yeah.
without parking, they're not gonna succeed. If that was the case, people would be up and down Doctor's Pike with stores.
They're gonna have to buy back those homes behind them.
Yeah, but we'll see how this plays
Again,
out.
it's going to be,
Who knows?
it's going to be an interesting process, so everybody's going to have these
We
conversations.
just gotta get through this, and it took us
It's gonna be a long
way too
process.
long.
It took us the exact right amount of time, Mr. Mayor.
I concur, Steve. You and I had a plan, didn't we? For this very night.
That's,
Planning.
I hope we get a lot of interest, that's what
we'll
I'm
see,
Yeah.
we'll do our work.
Anything else on the public notice or the redevelopment? Okay, at this point, what's the new business? All right, new business. All right, good and welfare. At this point in time, we're going to open up the meeting to anyone in the public wishing to speak on any matter whatsoever. Good afternoon, Charlie.
Good afternoon, good evening. Hi, Charles Bucknett, 223 Sunnywood Road. I just have one quick thought. and I go along with the chairperson about the map. You have a screen, you have a piece of completely projected image. Why not have it projected up onto that large screen? No matter where you sit, you'll be able to see what people are talking about.
That's a good
You
idea.
have the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I mean, I just think visual aids are good because,
Save the money on the 2x3.
I'll bring 2 boards.
Okay.
Only, no, but if, and this is a preference on my presentations in public forum. To do the PowerPoint, you really gotta turn down the lights and everything else, and I like doing a little bit more of the old school, having the ability to talk and see the individual speakers and residents eye to eye. I always move the boards closer to them if they can't see, but I make sure they have an opportunity to interact.
I've been coming to these meetings for over 2 years, and when you had the boards there, legal presentation, you see where I sit here all the time.
Mhm.
I could not see them from here.
I'm gonna have one board facing the audience and one board facing the dais.
But Steve, are you saying you want the people to come up and maybe point out where they
Yes.
live? Is that what you want?
More interaction.
More interaction?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm
if
just
they want
talking
to
about
talk.
PowerPoint, I'm just talking about one image.
No, I understand,
Okay.
I've done those in years past, and once the lights go out, everybody's expecting a movie.
I'm not-
And all I have is one slide.
We do, those types of presentations, I sit on the board of ed. We don't have to turn any lights out. What
Okay.
you have today, you can project an image, not who's turning the lights out.
Steve,
Does that work here? Maybe we'll try that.
what's that?
Maybe, who knows how to use this one?
We do, we can make.
Both screens work.
We can
Get
get
a
it.
second screen, you can turn
Put it
it.
that way, we can fire it up at the meeting.
It rotates.
yeah, we didn't turn the lights off for,
So who in town knows how to load that
All you
stuff?
have to do is plug it right there.
It's
a laptop.
the cable right there.
Dan knows how to use it. We
We can figure it
we
out.
could probably get the map up there.
I'm gonna email Joyce a PDF of the map.
That's perfect.
If you guys can check it out and see if you can make it work. As long as the lights don't go out, I have no problem with the map being on.
they shouldn't have to. And I mean, I just think, in my opinion, I just think it engages the public more and they don't feel like, you know,
It doesn't hurt.
like we're just,
You don't have to work with it. You
Talking
can work with
around,
all
I
that.
As long-
It's just in the
As long
background.
as the lights
Still,
are, as long as the lights
still
are
have
on.
the boards, but it's there,
Yep.
that way
I have no
anybody
problem
can
with
see.
that.
And if it's not that, it should be, come grow with us, or something that's positive. I don't see a problem with that.
Oh,
Yeah, you don't want me to put anything up on that.
No, we don't.
right. So,
It's
we're
okay.
gonna work that.
It's just a suggestion.
We'll give it a shot and see what it looks like. If
Yeah.
it looks good
Yeah.
and still function, same amount of lights, we'll have it up there.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
are there any other members in the public wishing to speak this evening? Entertain a motion to close the public portion of the meeting. Mr. Hockley, second by Mr. Liberty, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it is 7:59, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Ranieri, seconded by Mr. Vanella, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion adjourned at 7:59.